Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. So while I'm sitting here waiting on my lovely kids, I decided I'd share a story with you guys, and that will be my first closing transaction, and basically just give you the from the beginning to the end of how the process worked, how I found my first deal, and how we got the closing. So let's get started with this transaction. My first sale as a real estate agent. I actually, a family member actually, they weren't in the market for a property, but since they knew I was a real estate agent, they had decided, well, if we did buy something, then we would buy something exclusive, and so that's what they did. So they found a property that was behind the gate. They didn't know what was behind the gate, but they knew there was a property back there. There was a for sale sign. So they contacted me and said, "Hey, it's a property that's behind the gate. Is it any way you can get us access to take a look at it?" And for me, that was great news, because that means I can have if it's something that they like, I could can turn it to a sale and make my first commission check and have my first sale as an agent. So I went on the MLS and I looked the property up, and lo and behold, it was a nice house back there, and it had a gate, and so it was I would say the property was probably about 150 feet from the gate, but it was some trees, so you couldn't really see the property. It was ducked off behind the trees, so you had to go straight in, and then the property make a right, and then there was the property. So I got the access to the property, let them when it looked at it, and they actually liked the property. One of the main things they did like about the property, that it came with a lot of land, so that means they can have more of a yard and more privacy is what they were looking for, because they already had a nice property, but they were looking for something with a little bit more privacy if they did decide to move. And that's what this house offered. It offered a lot of privacy, but you still had neighbors on the same street. So with this particular property, went ahead and decided to put it on the contract, and that's when we ran into our first roadblock. Was we noticed that once we got ready to put on the contract, that the property, you didn't own from the gate to the property to the house itself. You owned only from the house and a little bit of the acreage around the property. So that caused a lot of confusion, because they're looking at like, well, we got to drive through the gate, and through this gate was the only gate to get to that property. That's the only property behind the gate. So they were wondering, like, why don't you own from the gate to the house? And so the way they had it listed was, it was a house, and it was like 20 some acres, but from what we seen when we went and looked at the property, it was a house, and it was like, and it sat on like 6 clear acres. So the house, and it's just a nice cleared 6 acres around the house. So once we talked to them, we decided, well, they said, well, hey, we'll sell you 2 acres and the house, but then you have to cross over our land and all that. So we're like, that's a lot of confusion. We said, well, hey, can we get from the gate to the house? And it was like, well, if we sell you from the gate to the house, then you will be blocking the rest of the property that we have left to sell. So it was like, well, I was like, well, my clients are only interested in a property that they can feel offer a lot of privacy. And if we, if you just sell us the small acreage, with that the house sits on, just 2 acres, then you can come and build around them, and then they won't have any more privacy. So that's where we were at first, a little bit back and forth with the property. So we finally was able to negotiate we negotiated that we can scoot the gate back, and they would add, at least 6 acres around the property itself, including the house, for, I think it was like maybe like a 15 grand difference. So we went from 2 acres up to 6 acres and the house for like $15,000 difference. But at first they wanted just the house and 2 acres. That's all they wanted to sell. So I thought that was like, dang, we adding 4 acres for only $15,000. That was a pretty good deal. And the gate would be moved back at the expense of the people who are buying it, which would be my clients. So move forward with it, and then inspection time. So now we were doing an inspection, and it's not a super old home. I think the home was maybe like built in, it might have been like maybe 15 years old, no more than 20 years old. And of course, older homes, they have their issues. And so the home, it really wasn't in bad shape. It was actually in pretty good shape. But my clients, on the inspection, they wanted to have like the facial of the house redone because it had a lot of rotten wood. Something on the chimney came up. The chimney was, I believe, was not fastened properly. Couple of small electrical issues, nothing major, because they had got a quote on it, and it was like only a couple $100 to square those away for the electrical issues. Maybe like one or two leaks that needed to be taken care of. Just minor things you would find on an older home. The only thing that was a big concern was the chimney. Okay, and then we ran into an issue to where my client somehow came across a inspector who was talking about the foundation of the property. Now, this particular home actually sat off the ground a little bit. The way they built it was on center blocks, and then they built the home so it didn't sit on the slab. It actually set up off the ground. But and they had a crawl space underneath the house. So as they're looking at the property, my clients call me and say, hey, the house has foundation or issues, or the house is leaning. I'm like, so they're freaking out. And then so I'm like, what? Like, we didn't have any of that in the inspection. So I go over there and I look to see what they're talking about. Now, the house is not doing anything. The house is actually level as it can be. It was like a slight little crack in the brick. But long story short, we ended up having 3 foundation people come out, and one guy, he was like, look, this is like, no, this is nothing wrong with this property. If anything, the issues that you see should have been like corrected, as far as like the doors wouldn't close, and a couple of the rooms, like, it wouldn't close smoothly. He said, just whoever redone some of the work in the house, they didn't sand everything properly and make it flush. And they had to did that, you wouldn't even have those issues or those thoughts. And we actually told them about the company that came up with, they wanted to charge $20,000 for the foundation that they say was broken. And he was very familiar with them and their tactics. So luckily, we got that issue out the way. There was no problem. We got it done. Had people come out, look, and confirm that the property was, in good standing condition. Now, remember, these are issues on my first transaction. So, I want everything to go good. I want, but it's not like from the get-go. We was, it was rough. The next thing we ran into was we didn't close on time. So we had an issue to where, as me being a new realtor at that time, I had used a lender that people in my office were familiar with, but I wasn't familiar with them. And the issue with that came, for one, it was around holiday time, and this lender, they were not in a hurry to get the deal closed. They were like really taking their time. I learned that lenders don't like to pay for the appraisal until they make sure that every T is crossed and every I is dotted. So we ran into this issue to where they hadn't did a lot of the work that they needed to do on their end to get the property closed. So with that being said, now we're at closing time, and now we can't close on the property. So we had to end up, my clients really wanted the property. They had the funds, no problem. It's just the lender. So we ended up having to find another lender. Luckily, this lender came through and was able to get everything done in 2 weeks. 2 weeks during holiday season. So he was like, look, if you can send me over everything that lender has, then I can get you done in 2 weeks. Because, you got everything I need. You just need the information like the appraisal, the inspection, and other little things that came along with the property. So he was able to, at first, the old lender didn't want to give it up. He's like, I'm going to lose money, because we had to pay for the appraisal. But this lender was like, look, I'll call him and I'll send the money over myself out of my own pocket, if we can, just so you can help get the deal closed. And luckily, he did that, and we was able to get the deal closed. Ended up everything on on that property for that transaction went pretty good. Fast forward a while later, some other issues arose with the property due to the little gate, moving the gate back. So that part, we'll save for another story. But other than that, the clients there, they still have the home. They actually did a lot of remodeling. They actually enjoy it. And that was my first sale. I think that was like a little bit over $500,000 for that property. So that was a good thing. But that was my first closing, first headache in real estate, because it was a lot of back and forth with everything with that property. I mean, it was nothing that we didn't go over with that property, which is cool because I learned a lot with selling that property that I used along the way on other properties. So now the more you learn in real estate, the better you are. So a lot of stuff that comes up now, I already know. I'm already steps ahead of it. So I know about choosing the right lenders. I know about the inspection process. I know about the appraisals. I know about how long it can take to get these deals closed, and just the layout, surveying the property, all that stuff that I didn't know as a new agent. Now I know that off of that one property, because we went through every step. Because that property we had to get surveyed, and at first we thought it was one size, but it really was less, and then we had to go back up on the side. So just that's a lot of back and forth. But other than that, that's that story. Appreciate you guys watching. Leave a comment down below of your story, on your first deal, if it went good or was it rough like mine, or or if you haven't even closed your first one. Other than that, thank you for watching, and I will catch you guys on the next video.